bind the devil at every hand by the power of Jesus' name. Well, it's our turn now. That's a great song. That is a great song. Did you ever notice how Carmen, the singer, right? That was a Carmen song with Petra. So good. An amazing song. Our turn now. Look it up right now. You'll love it. Ever notice how Carmen looks like Carmine Lupertazzi from The Sopranos? Look him up. Carmine looks like Carmen. Carmen looks like Carmine. I don't make the rules. It's just the truth. All right, let's get into it today. I just want to start this video by saying Samuel Sey is, in many ways, someone we could all strive to emulate. He is bold. If nothing else, he is bold. And I got to say, we need more boldness from Christians in our time. And this man right here, I'm not joking. This is 100% serious. You know me. I joke a lot. I'm dead serious here. This guy has so many fine qualities that any Christian would seek to emulate. I haven't heard someone just more sold out to the cause for saving babies that are killed through abortion. He is so dedicated to it. I don't know every nuance of his position there, so obviously I can't endorse literally everything the man says about the issue, but there's a boldness there, and there's a fearlessness that is something to emulate. No question about it. Even with the gay stuff, right? Because a lot of Christians are pretty strong on the abortion stuff, but sometimes they shrink back from really kind of telling it how it is on the gay stuff. But I've seen him say some things that are truly awesome on the gay stuff, and those are the two big issues right now, in my opinion, that God has placed before us in his providence. And Samuel Sey is very strong on those issues. There's no question about it. Many ways you should emulate Samuel Sey. And honestly, I kind of personally, I feel sort of a kindred spirit with Samuel Sey. I feel like in many ways me and him are similar people. Obviously, he's a whole lot nicer than I am. Let's just put it that way. But I honestly, and I like the guy. I do. And I honestly, I think I resemble him a little bit. I don't know. I mean, except for the chocolate skin, I feel like if you put our skin colors closer together, we resemble each other a little bit. And it's no surprise. I believe he's Nigerian, and I've got, I don't know, something like 20% Nigerian blood in myself. And so probably good reason why we have similar features and all of that kind of thing. This is him and his lovely bride. As you can see, he's in an interracial marriage, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And they look very happy, and God bless these two, man. I hope God grants them a boatload of children. And so there you go. There you go. All right. What I wanted to say, though, is that there is one way where you definitely do not want to be like Samuel Sey. And we're going to talk about that today. I mentioned he's in an interracial marriage, and lately he's been talking about how there's only one race. There's no such thing as an interracial marriage, and that's a position that a lot of people hold. It's a very respectable position to hold. But a lot of people have kind of been questioning him on that because in years prior, and I'm talking, I don't know, 5 years, maybe more, maybe less, something like that, multiple years. He's talked about the challenges of being in an interracial relationship, and he was using that terminology, really without qualifying it at all, and it certainly seemed to embrace that he was in an interracial marriage, and whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing, I really don't care about that. But it's interesting because he's kind of gone back on that. And he thinks that now to use these terms, it's inappropriate, right? It's inappropriate. And the whole reason I thought about this, here, by the way, here's him saying that they're not in an interracial couple and all of that kind of thing, which is fine. I mean, you hold that belief. I really don't have an issue with you. What brought my attention to all of this, though, is Samuel Sey was one of the ones who lost his mind when it came to this Stephen Wolfe tweet. Here's what he said about the Stephen Wolfe tweet, where Stephen Wolfe said, "White evangelicals are the lone bulwark against moral insanity in America." Samuel Sey's response was, "I enjoyed meeting you last year, sir. I'm also looking forward to finally sharing my review of your book. But I won't mince words. This is pathetic and racist." This is what happens when we attempt to create an identity or a tribe based on ethnicity instead of Christ. Now, of course, he wasn't trying to do that. That's not what the point of the tweet was. The tweet was about voting and how white evangelicals vote and things like that. And Samuel Sey wasn't the only one to do this. I'm picking on Samuel Sey a little bit here because, to be honest, Samuel Sey is a bit of a sacred cow in some of our circles, and I'm not that bright, so I'm going to go ahead and try to slaughter that sacred cow. Because Samuel Sey, he's a good guy. He's a good guy, and as I said, I'm not kidding. There are many ways that you would want to emulate Samuel Sey. I know that people use this strategy a lot to butter someone up that they're about to rip to shreds. But I'm not making this up. I really do think that there's tons to emulate about Samuel Sey. There's some things that he does and says that I personally would like to see more in myself. And so I'm not kidding. I'm not just using this as a tactic. But I do want to point this out because lots of people, it wasn't just Samuel, it was a lot of people that really took issue with the fact that Stephen Wolfe used the term white evangelicals. Now, again, I don't really care if you like the term or not, but people flew off the handle and they said, this is an evidence of racism. That's what Samuel Sey says here. This is racist to use that term. To try to create an identity or tribe based on ethnicity instead of Christ. That is racist. But the problem is that Samuel Sey has himself used this term. This was back during the early years of Trump and all of the craziness that ensued there. And here's what Samuel Sey said during that time. Again, this is years ago, right? This is years ago. So you're allowed to change your beliefs, right? This is not a knock on changing beliefs. Samuel Sey said this years ago. White American evangelicals who gleefully supported Trump should examine themselves, however. A completely safe and approved opinion. This is the approved opinion. You should examine yourself if you gleefully supported Trump, if you're a white American evangelical. So obviously, when he wrote this tweet, he didn't have a problem with using that term to describe a subsection of voters, right? It was in the exact same context, except he was using it as a rebuke and Stephen was using it as a positive, right? So somewhere along the line, Samuel changed his mind, right? And he now thinks, because you got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. He's bold and he is very thoughtful a lot of the time. Doesn't mean that he's immune to fits of emotions taking over what he says. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the generous thing, the generous assumption, the charitable assumption is that somewhere along the line, Samuel changed his mind. He no longer thinks it's appropriate to use the term white evangelical in this particular context, talking about voters and whatever. But this is where you should not be like Samuel, because if that's the case, then this comment here, you really got to measure it a whole lot more. Because this is the thing. This is what people call the cage stage. Samuel Sey is in the white evangelical cage stage, let's call it, right? Where you used to use this term, you didn't think it was a problem in this context, and now you do think it's a problem, so much so that it's actually racist and pathetic to use this term in this particular context. I would suggest that if you recently changed your opinion or you used to use it, I'm assuming Samuel wasn't a racist and pathetic at the time when he used to do this. Maybe a little bit of grace, guys. Maybe a little bit of grace. We've all seen it too, right? We've all seen the guy who used to be Arminian and then he turns into a Calvinist. And like the next day, he's talking about how Calvinists are all in outer darkness now. When yesterday he was one of them, right? Yesterday, and vice versa, too. I mean, it happens from the Calvinist to Arminian side, although, I don't really pay attention to a lot of those people. But I have seen it where someone used to be a Calvinist, and now all Calvinists are going into outer darkness. A little bit of grace, Guys, it's so easy to fall into this trap. In fact, I saw somebody that was going through the people that, like Samuel, flew off the deep end about Stephen using the term white evangelical, and almost to the man, Almost every single person who said it was inappropriate and racist and evil for Samuel Wolfe to recognize white evangelicals as a voting bloc, every single person has done it before. Whether it's been white evangelicals or black evangelicals, even some of these guys bring it into the church and divide up the church. Stephen wasn't even doing that. Some of these guys have even done that, though. And so how about a little grace? If you weren't a racist and pathetic when you used this term, you weren't using it in that way, maybe, just maybe, Stephen Wolfe isn't using it in that way either. And in this way, a little bit of grace would go a long way. And in this way, you should not be like Samuel Sey. This is not to single him out necessarily. He's just a really good example because, he actually went so far as to say this is racist, this is pathetic, and he actually used the term in pretty much the same context, except to Stephen Wolfe's point, which I think is a good point. If you use white evangelicals and you're trying to browbeat them and rebuke them, that's okay. But if you use white evangelicals to try to praise them, that's off the table. I think that's a pretty good criticism, in my opinion. And so I think that a guy like Samuel Sey in this, quite frankly, this is an example of gracelessness. He's kind of shown that initial critique is accurate. Because I'm assuming Samuel's not going to say he was racist back when he said this. Maybe he was. Maybe he would. And that would be. I mean, if that's the case, then that would be pretty remarkable. But in any case, let me just end this by saying, no shade Samuel Sey's way. We all make mistakes. We all say things we should not have said. And we all have fallen victim to the gracelessness. It's just so easy to be graceless. It is. It very much is. And Stephen Wolfe is an easy target, and so it's very easy to do that with easy targets. I get it. I totally get it. I've done it. I've been there. Samuel Sey is a bold guy. He's a bold guy. He's on the side of the angels. Nobody should be casting him into outer darkness for hypocrisy and things like that, especially in this issue. It's so easy to be a hypocrite in this issue. So easy. And we need to recognize that in ourselves. And maybe the next time someone says something that everyone and their freaking mother is saying, oh, it's a racist, get him! Maybe don't do that and just wait. Just wait it out and see and try to figure things out and see the arguments for, against, what the explanations are. Let them expand. Just a word of advice. Samuel, brother. Samuel. I love him. Hey, I love you is what I meant to say. By the way, his most recent article that he pinned to his thing, he's looking for some financial support because he's looking to, he does a lot of work in these areas. And it looks like he's trying to be a career writer. If you're the kind of person that supports people like this, I would argue that Samuel Sey is probably a good person to support. In general, you're going to be able to fully get behind much of what he says, in my opinion. Anyway, hope you found this video helpful. Samuel, don't forget, I love you. God bless.